but you won't be overwhelmed with that. Yeah,
We'll let someone else.
another month, that's changed, right? Basically.
Welcome, would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, welcome to our workshop this evening. We will be, basically tonight is about student data.
Yeah.
Let you cover.
Yeah, so we'll start first with Libby and Mr. Shane Chapman.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Weigel, members of the school board. I am Shane Schaffner, principal at Libby. So on our slide here, this is the data from our fall screener. So we do a universal screener out of FastBridge. And so every kid gets reading and math screens. So on here, when you look on the left column, it says early reading. And so we do that for all kindergartners get early reading, and then first grade gets it during the fall. And then they'll get it again here in the winter, but then they'll grow out of it and they won't do that one in the spring. And then when you look over on the right, there's A reading. So this one's a little more like, so if you're going along and you're answering correctly, you get a little tougher question, and so you miss, and it goes back. That's kind of the sweet spot of where you're sitting in there. So we do that in first grade and second grade. And second grade, that one is all them as far as that goes. So this is our baseline for the year. And so what we have here is where everybody's starting, and then we want to grow them. We'll measure again in December. We'll do our winter screening, and then we'll do another one in the spring, about the last week of April, and then we'll see what kind of growth we have out of all of our kids in reading. And then we also use, this is like a universal screener, but then we do other ones that are more diagnostic with specific things to pinpoint what kids need, what skills they might be missing as we go along. Any questions on that one? You can see we're a little, and the blue on there is those kids are low risk or advanced, so they're doing good. And then anything in that red shade, those are certainly one of the grow them to the blue as far as that goes. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next slide is similar, but this is math on here. So it's kind of the same formula there, where we have early math in kindergarten and first grade, and then those first graders go out of it by the spring, and then they do A math as well. So you can see in there, like, as you look like our second grade, Libby's second grade, like 59% of the kids are low risk or advanced right now. So all those things, when we look at those two, we want to hit about 80% for the year, 80 to 85%, and then if we're in that range too, then that shows that our tier one or just the teaching that every kid gets in the classroom, that it's solid. So that's another thing that you can kind of look at those and put it out there. So we're starting a little low, which is normal, and then we're gonna grow them as the year goes on. So.
Compared to last year, when you got started, is there a difference? You know, you said you're starting a little low. Did you start a little low last year
Yeah, it seems like
because of COVID?
Yeah, I don't know if it's COVID or what it is.
Or
But
just
yeah, every year, and then
But it's been
everybody
about
can
the
talk
same.
about. There's a slide too. So where the kids finish at the end of the year, and they spend the summer
I read two in
away,
the summer.
and they don't read, and they definitely aren't doing much math. And then so they come back, and then each kid usually slides a little bit over the summer, and then
Sure.
we go past. And then the other thing that kind of changes throughout the year, like, you know, at each on this winter, they'll have a goal for the winter, but then they'll also have a goal for the spring. So they need to keep growing all year so they can make, end of year at grade level. So each, in a sense, each test gets a little bigger as far as that goes. Thoughts or questions? We'll have more after December, we'll have our winter screenings.
So hopefully at the winter screening, we can see both this one and the next one and kind of see that progress with you.
Yeah,
That'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Hey Ryan, can you send that, is it one PowerPoint for everybody? Is that correct? Is that right, Tom?
Yes,
Can you send it to the board so they can see it too, if they wanna pull it up? We can see this a little bit, but it's kind of hard to read some of those,
Yeah,
maybe. We can send them to them, also, can you do that real quick?
Yep. Tilted or is that?
I don't know, maybe it's just
No,
me,
it's
it's hard to
just
see, but.
The size is kind
Yeah.
of glare.
Oh, that's
There,
a lot
that's
better. There we
better,
go.
that's better,
That's a
we're
lot
good,
better.
yeah,
Oh,
thanks.
Yeah.
Turn it too much, I didn't bring a paper.
we'll shoot it to you, that's better. That'll work.
There we go.
Tom Green, principal at West.
The pie guy.
The pie guy, I got a message, I left about 5:30, at 5:48, Lisa sent me a message, said we had 2 people left to pick up pies, but they're out of town, so they'll do it tomorrow, so about $20,000 worth of pies went out today. So
Wow.
if you ordered some, expect someone to be coming by. It's out of my hands. So like Mr. Schaffner said, we do a math and reading screener right at the beginning of the year. We don't do the early ones like Mr. Schaffner does, but these are A reading and A math. Like he said, it gives a standard bank of questions, and then depending on how you answer, you either get a more difficult or less difficult question, and it just figures out where the student exactly is. And then we use this data for Title I services. The lowest, I think we went down to about 30 kids. So the lowest scoring 30 kids get into the Title I services, and we do extra screeners inside of Title I and then figure out exactly where the root cause is for that problem and then start from there and build it back up. All the blue is, proficient and advanced, and then we try to push them, but then plus grow the others. Like Mr. Schaffner said, in December, we will screen again, and then we'll look at the side-by-side data and make sure that we're going the right direction. We change services for students based on this testing along with other testing that we do, just to make sure we're hitting the root cause and not skipping over what the main problem is. So we try to get all the way back to the main problem and start there and move forward. We do that in both math and reading. Right now, our 3rd grade is split up during their win time, their what I need time. They've split up. They use all 4 teachers, plus 2 title teachers, plus they got our librarian involved. And so twice a week she's involved with it, but they split their 66 kids, 70 kids, I can't remember exactly, into 7 groups and figure out what the root causes is for all those different students and try to work in small group situations for that. And every 6 weeks they change. Kids move around and get different needs met, so they're starting with reading and then they're gonna switch and do some math with that too. Starting there, so any questions about that one? That one's pretty self-explanatory. It'll be more interesting to see it in December, to see what the growth looks like.
Okay, can I just explain something real quick and go back to that? So as you can see on the bottom, it says spring 2023 graduation rate.
Yeah.
So we talked as a group to say we're all part of that. It's not just the high school, it's like things that happen throughout our system are gonna impact your graduation rate. So when they presented, that's kind of out there for them to look at also, because every school is kind of part of that as you move forward. I think that's important as a group, we're looking at that.
We'll sit on the floor.
Thanks, Tom.
So, yeah, so to graduate, mastery in the subjects, obviously, right?
That's the goal.
That's the
I think,
goal,
yeah,
in order
yeah,
to
yeah.
graduate.
I think Mr. Shafter and I agreed, you know, if we can start them out getting a very good base.
Yeah.
Then they can focus on what they're more interested in, the higher they get. I always figure if we can teach them to, I always say to reading and math, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
I think it's way easier, it'd be way easier for Mr. Daniel if I can send him sixth graders that can read and do math, or at least read and struggle through math. Like, figure out that it's going to be hard and it's gonna get more difficult, and if you know the basis, the rest will be easier.
Okay.
So this is our accountability scores, these are based off of YTOP. So, up in the, as you see, the 22-23, the NME is not meeting expectations, those are based off of a bunch of different things from the state. So right now, and when I look at these scores, we wanna be above the state average, that's our starting goal. We talked as a group a couple weeks ago about making sure that no matter what grade a student is, we're above the 50th percentile. We thought that was a good starting point from where we were. Down in the bottom left, you see 17, 18, and 19, 20, we were partially meeting, and then we had no state reporting for 2 years. The COVID year, because that was in March, you know, we take the test in April, so they didn't do one. And then they did another year of just, let's get the kids back in and learning. And so I put in just the last 2 years worth. The thing I really wanted to point out is if you look at the third grade ELA and math. Last year, we were at that 56.9 in the 60, and then the next year, we switched some of the things we were doing in both ELA and math. And so, we're hoping that, yeah, and the growth was there. So, my hope is that those kids that got all that instruction last year will now be fourth graders,
Right.
that instruction will carry on. So that's what we're looking for. And just building off of what we have, you know. Talking to my fifth grade math teachers, they assured me that there in no way was 35% what their expectation was last year, for those scores. And these are the number of students or the percentage of students that were proficient or above. Like I said, we talked as a staff about, you know, setting for fourth and fifth grade a 50% goal. Let's get up to 50 first, and then we'll move on from there. Now, if we hit 60, we're not gonna say the next year, let's go back down to 50. You know, we're gonna keep growing. If we could get above this state average this year, I'd be really happy.
Good.
But I think with a lot of the changes that we're doing, we've changed a lot K-5 in ELA. And I just had a teacher come back from the National Math Conference, and she's already talked to her team, gave a presentation to all the grade level teachers about what some changes she thinks we might need to do. Mr. Weigel approved a pilot program to start in January for some extra support. The teacher that went was super excited, and then her team was really excited after she presented to them about the pilot of this support program. It's an intervention program, so it's not, you know, taking over our core, but it's just extra support that they can really dial down, so they're excited about that. So I think we're gonna be moving in the right directions.
Good. Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Any questions for Tom? Awesome, thanks, sir.
Next.
Robert?
Which one is that first? Okay, so what we have here is, we
also do the fast testing in Glendo, but we have such low numbers that it per class, that I really can't tell you, well, I can just tell you they're progressing and they're at grade level. We have like one first grader that is not meeting expectation, but the rest of them are right at or above. We have 2 third graders that are not meeting expectations, but the rest are at or above. And so the rest of the kids are always at level or above. And so right now we're focusing on like 3 or 4 kids, which makes it easy for a small school. But and then this up here is our white top. Like Tom said, 2021, 19 and 20, there was no state reporting, but if we did, it would probably be the same, partially meeting or meeting expectations. In 18, 19, we met expectation, which means that our kids were above or proficient or above. I don't know the benchmark per se, but it was above the average. 17, 18, we were partially meeting. And then in 21, 22, the SSD next to the blue actually means it was a small school decision, which they compared it to other small schools, and we actually were meeting expectation according to small school. We, as you can see, there were many, like we had 100% proficiency. The NA really means it was so small that either they were passing or they weren't passing, but according to the color code, light blue, that means that we were actually meeting the expectation. Green, again, when you have a small school, they don't give you the numbers per se, but they just tell you that your kids are doing fine because they don't want to draw attention to the 1 student or the 2 students. Does that make sense?
Sure.
They can't recognize them, right?
Can't recognize them. Yeah, you can't see them.
Everybody would know that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I know who they are, but I can't.
Right.
But as a whole, Glendo is either usually meeting expectation or right on the cusp of meeting expectation. You can go to the next one. Wheatland Middle School. Coming in as a new principal, I use data quite a bit. We've been using the FastBridge data, but what we're finding out is it's the same questions all the time, so the kids get used to the questions. And so it's not as effective at the middle school level because it goes by leveling at the lower levels. And at the middle school, it just kind of gives us, if they're at benchmark, gives the same. So we are going to be changing over to a new assessment. It's not really new, it's old. We've used it before, and it's the MAPS. Connie, you may know MAPS. It's done through Northwest Education Association. But what it will do is it will provide a RIT score for our kids to kind of tell us where their instructional level is and where their learning level is in ELA, English Language Arts, math, and science. And so, just like FastBridge, it'll test fall, winter, and spring. So we're hoping to have the fall testing done if we make the window before Thanksgiving. That'll give us kind of a benchmark as to where the kids are, and we'll compare it to the FastBridge just to make sure that we don't have any gaps. And then the teachers, we have decided, since we are in the yellow a little bit, which is partially meeting expectation, we'll use the Y-top data as well as the map data as well as the FastBridge data just to see if we can pinpoint where kids might be missing some instruction between coming up from west to here or to the middle school, or that we're just not meeting in our instruction with our teachers. But that's how we use the data, is just to make sure that we're not missing any of the, in math it's what is it, measurement, algebraic expression. There's lots of different things that it measures, and it'll give us a very pinpoint
where the kids are at. With the Y-top, last year, 21-22, they did very well, met expectations for middle school expectations. The thing that we look at, if you look up there, the things that pops out to you, what pops out to you right off the top?
State average.
Yeah, we're a little bit low in math in the state average. But like Tom said, they make some changes at West, it's gonna trickle to us. But that's how many years down now, probably a couple of years away. But we wanna work closely with West and with Libby to make sure that we don't have any gaps in the instruction. And then also our 8th grade group was a very high group in, like in 22, 23, they're now 9th graders. They can be little pains in the butt, but anyway, our camera. But
They're insightful bunch.
yeah, but they're very bright, very smart bunch.
Very smart.
Yeah. And you're gonna have those bubbles that come through and you have those groups that are gonna sway your data a little bit. And so, yeah, we're working hard to get all of them at the state average is the goal, or above. And that's kind of what we wrote in our in-school improvement plan, is just to get them there, or actually to see a certain amount of growth. Sometimes if you say you wanna meet this percentage, it's hard to do that, but if you say I wanna see this much growth, it's a lot easier for the kids to kind of track their own data, teachers to track the data. You see growth, the growth model is a lot better to measure success.
Good.
Right.
Any questions?
I have one.
Okay. Shoot.
So the Libby and West have a plan for the kids coming up, made adjustments.
Yes.
What's the plans for the 6th and 7th graders before they go on to the high school then to catch up from what they then
Yep.
have in place?
And that's what we will be doing, is making a plan.
Okay.
Kinda, we don't really have a resource per se, but we have some ideas on how to use interventions that we have it set up in our schedules. Once we get a kind of a RIT score of where the kids all are at, it'll kind of give the teachers, a lot of the teachers showing a little bit of frustration because they feel like they're spending too much time going back and reteaching. And so what we wanna do is we wanna focus on right where they're at and then go from there forward, so we're not backtracking a lot.
So the MAPS testing will start next year,
No, it's starting,
starting this year?
yeah,
So that should
that will help.
really help,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, using those 3 data points from MAPS, Fastbridge and Y-top, it'll give us a really specific spot. And then from there, we hope to accelerate.
Perfect.
With the maps as well, we also purchased with that called Map Accelerator, which works with Khan Academy. And it's supposed to help focus on the kids where they are with their math and accelerate them at their, as fast as they can go. So we'll see if that helps as well. I guess that is a resource.
Good.
And that was something that you used some of the school improvement
Yeah.
money for at the very start of the year?
Correct.
Kind of the rush to the September 30th to utilize some type of intervention.
And the teachers are really excited about it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Josh, you doing all right?
I'm doing alright.
All right.
Might be a little slow tonight. Apologize for the sweatpants, but had surgery on Thursday morning, so. Alright, so had a couple different things here that I wanted to share with you tonight. First is our 22-23 Y-top scores. We just kind of bounce around all the time with the Y-top. We're pretty close, 9th grade ELA and math to the state average. Science is not tested at 9th grade level. 10th grade, again, pretty close with ELA. We're a little bit above in math and then above in science. Our ultimate goal is to be at or above the state average ultimately. And then as far above that as we can be, the better. The next slide will show you some different things that we track, but
Our YALT kids, I just wanted to include them. They do a fantastic job. You can see that they're proficient in advanced levels with those students. And then on the right side, we have our ACT data. Last year's spring composite was a 19. Again, you can see we're above the state average. Math was a little bit below, and science was a little bit below. And then that green link right there, Ryan, you don't have to go there, but that is just gonna show you some historical data that we've been tracking, at least since I've been here at Wheatland High School. We just track all of the different subject scores and the composite scores, and graph that out, just so we have some nice data and trend lines to monitor what we're doing. Okay, you can go to the next one. Alright, so we've talked a lot in our school improvement conferences, plans about, you know, we used to talk a lot about, well, we wanna raise this 1 or 2%. Well, what does that really mean? What does it really look like to a teacher when they're teaching in their classroom? And so one of the things that we stole from Thermopolis High School was we wanna be in the top 10 in the state. That tells the teachers and the kids, that gives them, you know, when you're in the top 10, you're doing pretty well. And so that, starting last year, that was our goal. This is this year's data. You can see the first overall ranking, that's with all of the high schools. And then I broke it out and into the 3A classification ranking. So we didn't quite make it overall, which is where we wanna be. We wanna be in the top 10 overall. Definitely we've had some high points in our schools with our like size. The last column up there is basically the first score is where we were. The score on the right hand side is what it would take to be in the top 10, so that number 10 spot. So just another way to look at the data to say, okay, how close really were we? So just want to put that up there. I did include the 8th grade scores. Their overall ranking was really good. And then when you break it down even further into class 3A, they were at the top. So their numbers are their current performance levels and then what it would take to be the top school. So you can see how close that group did, you know, that they were to be the top school in the state. And then down at the bottom, another green link, just some historical data on where Wheatland High School is ranked. Just kind of, we've got that document going now, it's pretty easy to keep that going so we can kind of monitor. But knowing a top 10 score is a lot easier for kids especially to grasp onto. They're competitive across the board, they know what that means, so it helps us communicate with them our expectations. Okay, right. This is our accountability performance. We were meeting targets this year. Last year, 2 years ago, we were meeting targets. Last year, we did not meet targets by like a couple of points. So we were glad to have it back into the green overall, meeting performance. So we do not technically have to write a school improvement plan. I like to keep ours updated and submit it anyway, just so you know the teachers and I have a conversation about that, you know, what we're actually working on. So the goals that we put in on the right hand side there, those are the goal numbers or targets that we need to meet. If we're in the green, which is meeting, that the number on the right hand side is what it would be to be exceeding. So we're always looking at the next level. So in the orange with the EL progress, our English language learners, we want to be at a 19 to be meeting target. Our extended graduation rate, that includes on-time graduates, 5th, 6th, and 7th year graduates. And we've it's not as high as I want it to be. We've hovered anywhere from, when I first got here, I think we were at 78%, but we've been as high as 88 or 90%, and that's more where we want to be. But you can see, if you get to 85, that kicks you into the meeting target range. Post-secondary readiness, this includes college and career and military readiness. I feel like we're doing a pretty awesome job with our kids right now in those 3 areas. If a kid is taking a concurrent or dual enrollment course, we get credit for that. We get credit for kids that score a 45 or above on the ASVAB, which our sophomores will be taking on Wednesday. And then the career readiness through our CTE programs, if our students are passing those tests in their program areas. So we're doing pretty well, and you can see we're right on the exceeding target line. And then one area where we're working on is our grade 9 credits, and this is a conversation that we've been having with the middle school, and just how can we, what does the middle school need from us? What do they need to know? Our support, and then they're working with us trying to help get those kids focused on, I don't like to say that it doesn't mean anything, because it all means something. It's all the end goal. How do we instill the work ethic in those kids to get them where they need to be, to know that there's work to be done? And so we're working hard on that, on those transition pieces. This year, I think we had invited 19 kids to a freshman academy, and I'm tracking that data on those kids that we invited to where they are on our weekly eligibility. So I just wanna see if that program did enough to encourage those kids. And then the goal would be that if it did, we wanna expand it to the entire incoming freshman class.
Nice.
And so I'm tracking that data as well too, and then you can see our historical accountability performance. That's it. Some other assessments that we take, we're a little different than everybody else. We have moved away from the fast bridge test, just because it's really not designed for high school. One of the things that we're tracking is the lexile, or the reading level of our kids, and now that we have our new resource for ELA, we're doing those types of assessments. Those are embedded into the classroom. So our teachers are gathering that data for us. Like I said, we're taking the ASVAB on Wednesday with all sophomores. Our juniors will be taking the pre-ACT the first week of December, just to give them a look if they haven't already taken the ACT, so they're ready for the state test in April. We are transitioning to the ACT to be online, just because YTOP's online, and this is how these kids are gonna be learning a lot, is through online programs. The calculators are on there, the timers are on there, they should be used to it. We did find out the pre-ACT only comes in paper pencil. So we wanna limit that. We wanna limit I maybe look at the question, I answer it, and then I gotta find my bubble. When you do the ACT online, the question and the answers are all right there. The calculator's there if you need it, everything is right on the screen, so we're hoping that has just a little bit of an impact, because that's their world, they're technology driven, so.
Nice.
Excellent for Josh, all right, thanks, Joe. Seven.
Hi, everybody. Cedric Five, high school principal. I don't have as much data to share with you. So what we run into is that small number issue. So I think we had 3 kids take the ACT last year, and then 2 take the YTOP. So we're not gonna really get values for those. Josh kind of explained some of these areas. So you see the NAs and the number on the right, if we receive the score, is what we'd be looking to get. So achievement would be 30, growth would be 40. As you can see, the school climate we're at 2.73 and we wanna be at 2.8. So what that is it's a survey that the kids get. And when they fill that survey out, then it gives a score from our 15 kids. And it lets us know where the students feel like we're at within that score. So we're obviously always trying to improve that.
So 3 being the large, like excellent, or, I just don't understand that,
Yeah, so it'd be out of a 4-point scale,
out of
like
4 points,
4
okay,
is the best experience that
right,
they could be
Okay.
getting at
very good,
the school they're at. The other thing that we look at is the high school credential rate. We're currently at a 30%, we obviously wanna get to where all our kids are graduating, and that would be 100%, but our next goal would be, getting at least up to 50%. So that's something that would be achievable, so half of our kids graduating on time within that 4 year. And like Josh said, it carries over 5, 6, 7, but it's that 4 year mark that we would like to get kids graduated by. We are advanced in the college and career readiness, so we're at a 23 on that, and we wanna be above a 20. So that is those kids taking a progression of classes, and then their ASVAB scores once again and stuff like that, so that's a positive for us, so.
So talk a little bit about what some of the plans for the future, because we've talked a lot about Peak doesn't really have an alternative field, it's just in front of a computer doing Ingenuity, so what are some of the things that you've came up with or some ideas you have to try to improve that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, we currently have the 1003A grant, and we were identified for our comprehensive support improvement. And so that was because we had a graduation rate below 67%. So we are in our second year of our first cycle of that grant, and then we were awarded another round of it. So as a staff, we've been going to professional development to better understand the alternative student mindset and how to reach them a little bit better. And in the future, we plan on starting a program called the Discovery Program. I'm currently in talks. They only have one professional development a year, and it's in the summer. So for this next coming school year, we can't do anything about it now. For this next coming school year, the Peak High School staff, possibly Mr. Buckhammer, as a counselor, we will attend the Discovery Program training, and we'll implement that as a school. As an example, Triumph High School in Cheyenne, they have 250 kids, but every kid that is in that program goes through the Discovery Program in order to basically get into their school. And they run it as a 6-week process, and they run it as an elective credits. And so within that 6 weeks, kids can earn 2.5 credits worth towards their graduation rate, towards that. So we are looking at that as kind of our model. It's gonna take some changes from us, changes in mindset, changes in probably schedule to be able to make that happen. And really it is a program that is gonna develop the whole kid, where right now we're just expecting them to be developed and come in and do the work. And some Wheatland High School kids have trouble doing that, and as an alternative school kid, we need to give them some extra attention, whether it's with a behavior issue like anger, or managing their stress, to managing their time. So the Discovery Program kind of has that built in, and it will kind of develop them as a whole person rather than just trying to get them to do the academic piece. So I'm pretty excited about that program and implementing it. We are also working on getting a graduation coach, or looking into a graduation coach. And that would be a person that I would like to see meet with every individual student at least once a week. And they would go over their plans for post-graduation, but also talking to them about what they're currently doing and steps they can, that'd be kind of like a goal setting for them. And that one person they can meet with, that's not me, not one of the teachers, it's gonna be somebody that's their only role with the students, is game planning with them. How do we get you here? What do you wanna do with your life? So I'm pretty excited about that, and both of those programs can be covered under the grant. So those are big things that I think will actually impact the students most and make them productive citizens for our community someday, so.
So this discovery program training, you're saying it's gonna take some changes maybe in schedule, so are you thinking like a summer deal, or what did you mean by that?
So, in order, we're gonna have to, we've already started, I met with my peak teachers the other day and we started to discuss, what it would look like as far as, like the first year, we might have to have some kind of hybrid, where if we have a 5th or 6th year senior, they might not go through the discovery program, especially if they're 5 credits away from graduating, 3 credits away from graduating, and it depends on what credits they need. Maybe that would benefit them and they would get done in that same day. So we're gonna have to look at every individual kid, just like we would with everything else. So we're also looking at building in that we need to build in time every day for kids to be able to go do some portion of the discovery program. Where we don't necessarily have that right now. Like Thursday, Fridays, we have peak or blue and gold time. And it would be something we would need structured every day to make it so that it's meaningful.
So about how much time per day?
Well,
What does that look like?
that's a question I have for Triumph, exactly how they make stuff work. From what I understand, that first 6 weeks, that's all their kids do, is discovery program. And so
all day?
if they have, I think they go by 4 block periods in their day. So they do like almost 8 hours worth of discovery program. And it's not just like anger management one day, it's like they break it up. And I'll know more once I get trained in it, but they spend a significant amount of time within that program before actually getting into the academic piece. So.
And then does it go throughout the whole year, or is it a block and then you get on with the academics?
Yeah, so once they have like a 6-week graduation from the program.
Okay.
And so once the kids show that they have those skills built up and they can pass that, then they get into the academic piece.
Nice.
If they have like, they have different criteria set up. If they're absent 5 times within the program, then they have to retake it the next quarter.
Wow.
So after that 6 weeks is over, they'll start another program for the kids that didn't pass, and they'll take that program again. So.
But I think the things they learn in that time period, they actually, that's embedded within them,
Yeah.
and then the teachers also learn that, so they come back and reteach some of those skills, like they're not attending. They start talking about attending skills, and some of those things are embedded throughout their career, but they learn it up front.
It's called the Triumph High School?
Yeah.
Is that what, cause you can read all about it on here.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and
Get some more information on it.
they've invited us down to be with them to check it out, so we haven't scheduled any dates or anything like that so that the teachers can see that, but we have that option.
Sounds pretty excellent.
Thank you.
I have one quick question, just a background question for me, cause this all sounds really good, but how long has Peak been here? How long has it
7 years.
been here? And has our graduation rate stayed pretty steady?
I'd have to pull the historical data on that. Right now, I can't answer that. I would say it's probably between 30 and 50.
Okay.
I mean, every
Just background.
year.
Alright, thank you.
We've already heard from Robert, so let's see, Shannon? Go through some of our special ed report card information.
To where you go. Thank you.
So mine is paper, and this is not the official report card, special education gets an official report card every year on what they call indicators. This is not the official one because they don't finalize it till the 16th. You're welcome. So my students do impact, you're welcome, Josh's graduation rate, as you can see there at the top. If you're an alt student, it does not count towards graduation rate. It counts as a dropout. And that's just a state thing, there's nothing we can do about it. So that impacts the high school's graduation rate. Joe brought everyone to if we had a school or if they had high school. It has in the past. So that's why that looks the way it is. It does not impact the dropout rate though, but it does impact graduation rate, okay? So that's indicator 1 and 2. Indicator 3 deals with the state testing. So indicator 3A is just our participation rate. We have 100% participation. Our kids, it's a rarity if they don't participate in the state testing, period, for English and for math. Proficiency rate, both English and math, we struggle, but there's a reason why these kids are on an IEP. And just looking at the different columns, if you look to kind of go back, right now the target for last year is the first column right here. Second column is what the state is doing. Third column is the number of district students that match that indicator. And then what the next column before the colored column is what we actually did. And then the final column is how far off we were from the target that the state wanted us. So 3B is proficiency. 3C is proficiency on our Y alt. So 3B is Y top, 3C is Y alt.
Shannon, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in 3B, it's really students on IEPs, right?
All of them are, yeah.
All the students on IEP, they do have targets specific for that group?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you see this SWD, you see, so if you look at proficiency rate and you go across, it says proficiency rate on the regular assessment for SWD, student with a disability, see what that stands for. And then on page 2, this is the gap, right, between your gen ed kids that are not on an IEP and your special education students, okay? 3D, that's 3D, 4A and 4B have to do it with expulsion. I don't think I've had an expulsion since my first year, so 9 years ago. We have had an expulsion for 9 years, for a sped student, can't speak for gen ed, but for a sped student, so. Least restrictive environment is what LRE stands for there at number 5. So we really have to, the state really watches the percentage of time out of the general education environment. There's a continuum that we absolutely have to follow, it's federal law. So the first one is, we have them in the classroom as much as we possibly can, 80% of them are their day. Separate classroom, they are in the regular classroom less than 40%. The only time we don't is, didn't meet last year was 5C, which is putting them in a separate facility. That would be like our residentially placed or our BOCES in Glendale or day treatment program placed students. And then parent involvement. With parent involvement, the state has changed how they do this. They used to do like a mass mailing to every single parent. no district got any back, parents didn't send them back. So what they encouraged was we handed them to parents in the meetings. So we do a self-addressed stamped envelope, or they can do a QR code. Most parents choose to just fill it out right there, and they stick it in the envelope, and they throw it in the school mail, and it's mailed out. So that has helped that proficiency, that rate to go up for parent involvement. The final page, indicator 14. Now in the summer, I have to go through, and kids that have been out of school a full year from graduation date, I have to wait till it's been a year from their graduation date, then I can start calling them, and they give me the list of the students I'm supposed to call. So throughout the summer, I call those kids, check out, there's a whole list of questions I have to ask them. You know, are they going to post-secondary something, whether it's trade school or 2-year, 4-year, whatever that is, are they working? And so it's a whole set of questions that I have to ask them that pertain to indicator 14. So, some of our students struggle, some of them are still sitting on the couch at home. Hopefully that 18 to 21 program that we're building will impact this more. This last summer, when I did my calls this summer, we had every kid either in a program somewhere or working, so this will look a little different next year for our report card. Timely and accurate data, it means we stay on our timeline. Indicator 20 is our timeline, we stay on track, and we did I guess this was the 22, actually this would have been over a year ago, but we stayed on track for our timelines for all assessments, all IEPs, any of that. When a kid transfers in, when we've been given, here we want a kid assessed from a school or a parent, we stayed on track timeline wise. So when they finalize it down here, they'll give us our grade, which is kind of like they were talking about, like meets expectations, or there's 4 levels. This current year, we're just finishing out. We were number 2 level that we've met our expectations. So we'll see. So it'll be down here when they finalize it on the 16th. So, any questions?
So you said the 18 to 21 program that you're building, you didn't have that before?
We had it, but we didn't have a special like house where we could go and do different skills. It has looked way different in the past.
Oh.
Yes, we still taught those skills in those students, but it looked different than it's looking this year. So at least bare minimum twice a week, they're using that house and going down there and doing some kind of activity with those kids. But yeah, we did like job stuff, or we would help them find a job with DVR. It was in conjunction with DVR. So yes, there were things being done with it, but it's just a little more robust, I can say now, than it was in the past. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Something that's, yeah.
Alright, so that brings us to the end of our workshop. We do have 7 minutes till our board meeting starts, so take a little break, get a drink, whatever.
Kara Stevens. Yeah, my AirPod.
So I'm gonna play this game in my ear.
Oh, let's see, yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out dinner.
They're good kids, they'll figure it out. Not. Usually the board meeting does start at 6.
Brandon asked what was for dinner, and Kara told him, and she's like, you can start cooking.
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
to anymore.
Yeah. You know, now they're voting Danielle comes, they hardly ever say.
How's it going?
So now it's kind of like Monday.
How are you? Oh, not too bad.
So,
You can come back and cook.